When the soldier heard the princesses leaving, he quickly leapt out of bed and wrapped his special cloak around him. He watched the princesses disappearing into the opening and followed the youngest, who was the last to leave. The princesses then descended a row of steps, and the soldier still followed close behind. When he was about halfway down the steps, he accidentally trod on the youngest princess's gown. She was frightened and cried out, "Help! Somebody's pulling my dress!" But her sisters couldn't see anyone, so they carried on down the steps. When they reached the bottom, they came to an avenue of trees where all the leaves shone because they were made of silver. "I'd better pick some of these leaves to take back with me as evidence," he muttered to himself. So he broke off one of the branches. A great cracking noise came from the tree, and the youngest princess cried out, "What on earth was that noise?" But the other princesses hadn't heard anything and told her not to be so silly. Next, they came to a long avenue of trees where all the leaves were made of gold. The princesses took a leisurely stroll in this avenue where the golden leaves shone brighter than the sun. The soldier plucked some of the gold leaves from the trees and put them in his pockets to prove that this wasn't a dream. The beautiful golden avenue led straight onto another avenue that was full of trees with sparkling diamonds in their branches. And as the princesses strolled along, the soldier picked a bunch of diamonds and stuffed them into his pockets. All the princesses walked along the avenue of diamonds until they came to a large stretch of water that was surrounded by beautiful mountains. The soldier couldn't believe how breathtaking the scenery was. He had to pinch himself to check he wasn't dreaming. Here, there were 12 little boats waiting for them, and in each boat sat a handsome prince. The soldier had been following close behind, and when the princesses were at the water's edge, he watched each one step gracefully into a boat. The princes had been waiting for the princesses, and each prince took a princess in his boat. The soldier followed the youngest in with her prince. Then all the princes started rowing to the other side of the water. They all rowed with great speed, except for the prince who had the youngest princess as his passenger. He was surprised at how heavy his boat felt. He didn't realize that he was carrying an extra passenger that night. "I'll have to row with all my strength if I'm going to keep it afloat," he said. When the princes had rowed across the water, they came to a beautiful castle. On every wall and every turret, there were fairy lights in fantastic colors. The lively sound of drums and trumpets was coming from inside the castle. Once inside, each prince danced with his princess, but the soldier, who was still invisible, danced alone. They all danced until all their shoes had been danced right through. The princes took them back across the water in the boats, but this time the soldier sat in front next to the eldest princess. As soon as they reached the bank, they said farewell to the princes and promised they would come again the next night. As they climbed wearily up the steps, the soldier rushed ahead to his bed. He was snoring so loudly that all the princesses could hear him, and they told one another, "He won't give us any trouble." Then they took off their beautiful dresses and put their worn-out shoes under each bed. The soldier was so amazed by his experience that he wanted to see everything all over again. So he followed the 12 princesses on the second and third nights. On his third visit, he kept a jeweled drinking cup as proof. At last, he was summoned by the king, who thought he hadn't reported to him earlier because he didn't have anything to say. The king asked him, "So, what have you got to tell me about my little princesses?" The 12 princesses were listening intently at the palace door. "The 12 princesses have been dancing the night away in an underground castle with 12 princes," was the soldier's reply. And then he told the rest of the story and said, "Look, here are the branches and the cup to prove it." The king then sent for his daughters and asked them if the soldier was telling the truth. "Yes," said the eldest princess, as she knew that the soldier had all the proof and she wouldn't be able to get away with lying. So the princesses had to admit everything. Then the king asked the soldier which one he would take as a wife, and he replied, "I will take the youngest, as she has the kindest nature." The princesses were a little sad because they would not see their princes again, and the king made them promise that they would behave themselves in the future. But all their sadness was soon forgotten when the wedding celebrations began. And everyone in the palace danced the whole night long.